She was a mother, 8-year-old triplets, and she was face down on the couch, strangled to death.
It's likely that whoever killed her was somebody who knew her and was conversing with her, and then would have flown into a rage and attacked her.
A cold-hearted killing.
The scarf could have been used to strangle Dana to death.
This case, it was a genuine whodunit.
A twisted mystery with multiple suspects.
The police looked at the estranged husband, they'd looked at the boyfriend, they'd looked at the stalker. Somebody did this, and they just had to figure out who that was.
The truth will be revealed.
I may describe this person best as somebody who's a fledgling psychopath.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. At the foot of Mount Rainier in Washington lies Puyallup, a quaint, peaceful town with nature trails and tree-lined streets.
Puyallup is a smaller town. It's an old town. It has some nice scenery. You move here for the schools and the parks and for your kids. Puyallup is a safe town. It's going to have a lower crime rate. It's not the kind of place where you expect to see a lot of violent crime.
But in August 2001, on a day like any other, police get a worrying call about one of the town's newest residents.
Dana Lascowski worked as a nanny for 2 doctors, and she was scheduled to arrive at 7:30 in the morning at work, and she didn't show up. This was very unusual for her. She was very reliable, so her employers called us, and we responded out to her house to check her welfare.
About 11 in the morning, the police arrive at Dana's residence to just make sure that she's okay. Knock on the door, and there's no answer. They did a perimeter check, and they looked in the windows and tried to see if they could see anything, and they didn't notice anything. But they did find that the back door was open, and so they went ahead and entered the house.
Our officers came in calling Dana's name and then found her on the couch in the living room. She was underneath blankets. She was in a position where her head was resting on her arm, and then her other arm, we found it behind her back. She was deceased.
Police will always do at least a cursory examination of the body to see where the injuries might be and to look for any kind of things like stab wounds or gunshot wounds. There were nothing like that, but they did notice injuries to her throat, ligature marks. And there was a scarf close by, which indicated that she'd been strangled. At this point, it's a homicide investigation.
But who would want to kill 36-year-old Dana Lascowski?
Dana was a mother with 8-year-old triplets, and she had a niece, Amanda, that she felt like a mother to, and said, you can come and go here however you please, and so can your friends, and if you need anything from me, I'll be there.
When she'd walk into a room, she would get to know everybody in the room. Everybody would like her. She's very outgoing, very personable.
She was always somebody that had a kind word or a kind deed for everybody.
Tasked with investigating Dana's murder are veteran detective Scott Bramhall and prosecuting attorney Stephen Penner.
There are certainly crime scenes, homicide scenes, where there's blood spatter, a victim on the ground, visible injuries, maybe a disruption all around the room. That wasn't the case here. There wasn't any blood, no weapons. There wasn't anything really broken. She was face down on the couch.
When police turn Dana over, they find bruising on her neck and dried blood around her nose and ears.
The medical examiner ruled that the cricoid cartilage of her throat was fractured, so it's a crushing injury to the throat.
Dana died from being strangled to death, probably with her own scarf. It's possible to strangle somebody with your hands, but like any tool, a ligature makes it easier. If you're behind them with a ligature, It can be very difficult to get the ligature off the throat. And even if you can dig your fingers in between the ligature and your throat, it won't stop the compression of the airway. In this particular case, it appeared that the scarf that could have been used to strangle Dana to death. So the police searched for any kind of trace evidence, DNA, bodily fluids, something that they could use to try to identify the killer. They looked for everything they could and they didn't find anything. We kept going back to Dana's body, where it was found and what position it was in. Her arm up behind her back, face down on the couch, strangled to death. It suggested that there was a struggle. Whoever did this had enough strength to overpower someone who's literally fighting for their life.
The crime indicated the offender was strong, somebody with upper body strength. So we were assuming the offender would be a male.
To find Dana's killer, Detective Bramhall must reconstruct the final 24 hours of her life, starting with the crime scene.
There were abrasions to Dana Lascowski's knees and elbows, and they would be an indication that Dana Lascowski was not killed on the couch, that it was likely that there was a possible struggle on the floor. We were able to process the carpet with luminol. What we did was we marked on the rug the location of the luminol illuminations, and that formed a pattern. The pattern would be an indication that Dana was killed on the floor. The person that killed her would have then picked her up and placed her on the couch and then covered her up.
Investigators believe the killer was trying to make the body more comfortable after death, an example of undoing behavior.
Undoing is a type of psychological defense mechanism. We all have such mechanisms. In this case, the fact that she was covered with a blanket may indicate that somebody had engaged in undoing behavior to cancel out or counteract the murder. You could read some remorse or guilt into undoing behavior. It implies that there's some sort of relationship here between the killer and the victim.
That would indicate that the killer was someone who had affection for Dana. This isn't a random burglar who broke in and accidentally found her. This is somebody maybe who knew her. And that's important as you develop suspects.
Then, police received significant information about Dana's murder.
The medical examiner was able to approximate that Dana had been there for a few hours before the police arrived, and most likely had died in the early hours of that morning.
We knocked on the neighbors' doors, and one said that they reported hearing a woman screaming during the night. They estimated that time at about 1 a.m., so that gave us a time frame.
We knew by 7:30 that morning, Dana probably was dead because she didn't show up for her job.
Having established Dana was killed between the hours of 1 and 7:30 a.m., police start looking into Dana's background for clues about her murder.
Dana was a mother. She had 3 young children, 8-year-old triplets, living with her. But at the time that Dana was murdered, they were with Steve, her husband. She had been recently separated. And police were able to establish that she had started dating. What that does is that just increases the universe of people who might be suspects. The people that Dana would let into her house late at night that she would think that she was safe with, when it turned out that she wasn't.
Detectives asked Dana's employers if Dana had concerns about any of the men she'd been dating.
The people that she worked for as a nanny told the police that Dana had mentioned a man, Adam, who had termed as kind of a stalker.
Dana had just moved into her house, and Adam ran a bucket truck for a cable company. And Adam had come to install some cable.
When the job was done, Adam asked Dana out on a date. She wasn't interested, but that didn't stop him from pursuing her.
Adam was a guy who wouldn't take no for an answer and wouldn't leave her alone. His behavior escalated. Dana reported getting notes on her door, flowers, gifts. And he was surveilling her while she was at home. And then calls and texts that just wouldn't stop. By all indications, this was obsessive, controlling, angry behavior, which would make it more credible that this person might be able to get to the mental state, the emotional state, to kill somebody.
Then, what police learn next increases their interest in Adam as a suspect even further.
Dana's employers told us that Dana had said that if anything happened to her, it would be this cable guy. We find that significant, and we take that very seriously.
If she was scared enough to tell people that he might do something to me, something violent, and then something did happen to her, that, of course, raised concerns by the police.
At that point, Adam becomes the prime suspect.
Police are closing in on a suspect, a cable installer named Adam, who had been stalking Dana Lascowski in the weeks leading up to her murder.
Adam seemed to have a motive, seemed to have a behavior that would suggest that he was likely the killer.
We were focused on Adam as a prime suspect. And we got search warrants on his vehicle, bucket truck, on his locker at work, and we took him into custody. He was belligerent. He was very uncooperative and insisted he wasn't the one that killed her.
Detectives then press Adam about where he was the night Dana was killed.
On the night of the murder, he said he was at home hanging out with his friends.
Searches through Adam's phone records show he was at home that night.
Based on his alibi as he gave it and the way it checked out, he was moved down on the list of suspects for our investigation.
The police really thought Adam was the one who had killed Dana because of the stalking behavior. But now they have to turn their attention and resources to other suspects.
Investigators shift their focus to a small clue found at the crime scene.
Dana Lascowski had a phone number written on her hand in ink, and some of that was faded. But we looked at that phone number and looked at identifying whose phone number it was.
When police check the phone number, they discover it belongs to a 35-year-old man named Julian.
The phone number linked to Julian opens up a realm of possibilities as to his potential motive. This speaks to a certain degree of intimacy. The fact that it's taken down in this manner suggests that that number was important to her.
Detectives track down Julian and bring him in for questioning. They ask why his phone number would be on Dana's hand.
He was not really answering. I thought that was a little odd. So we kind of zeroed in on his relationship with Dana.
Julian tells investigators Dana was dating his best friend, Matt, but Julian seems nervous.
When we confronted Julian and asked him if he also had a relationship with Dana, he acknowledged that. So it turns out that they were having an affair.
With this startling revelation, detectives now wonder if Julian could be Dana's killer. They question where he was the night of the murder.
Julian said he was at a bar on the night that Dana was murdered. Said he was there about from 10:30 at night till past 1 a.m. Checking into the bar management seemed to indicate that that was consistent with the truth. He was with a group of friends. His friends vouched for him being there. So his alibi didn't put him anywhere near Dana's house that night.
With Julian's alibi ruling him out as Dana's killer, detectives question if their affair gave his friend Matt a motive for murder.
Dana's killer would be the kind of person who she wouldn't think twice about having in her house, but also could be the kind of person who might be jealous and could get angry enough to strangle her to death. Romantic relationships can lead to that kind of intensity of feelings. Of course, they don't all do, but a lot of times when you see that type of crime, that's the situation. The nature of this killing was very personal. And so Matt, who seemed to be kind of a primary boyfriend for Dana, naturally became a suspect.
Armed with Julian's information, investigators dig deeper into Dana and Matt's relationship.
We were told Matt was very much in love with Dana, and Dana liked Matt, but was less into Matt than Matt was into Dana.
In this case, we have one person in this relationship is clearly more invested than the other. On top of that, he discovers that she's sleeping with his best friend. That automatically interjects a degree of obvious jealousy and resentment.
Dana's phone records reveal that she spoke with Matt repeatedly the night she was killed.
According to the phone records, Dana had been on the phone with her boyfriend, Matt, talking to him a few times between 11:30 and midnight.
When detectives ask Dana's friends about Matt, they learn he's a rough type of guy.
We were being told by Dana's friends and associates and family that Matt was a biker and a person that used hard drugs, the person who could fight. He was a person we were told he could fight 10 men at once. And so we looked at him as a very good suspect. It was possible Matt found out about the affair and went and confronted Dana because he felt that he had been jilted. And during that confrontation, flew into a rage, killing Dana.
In the murder of Dana Lascowski, investigators have zeroed in on her boyfriend, Matt, who they learn is based just outside of Vancouver, Canada.
The fact that Matt lived in Canada, that alone wouldn't eliminate him as a suspect. Puyallup's only about a 3 or 4 hour drive.
So we went up to Canada to look into him. And when we arrived, we met with them, explained what we were there for, asked him where he was on the night that Dana was murdered.
When Matt is questioned, he denies having any involvement in Dana's death.
Matt said he tried to get down to Puyallup to visit Dana on the night that she died, but he was stopped at the border because he had a suspended license and was not allowed entry into the country.
So Matt told the police that at the time that Dana was murdered, he was at the Canadian border crossing and could not have been the one who had committed the murder.
We looked into it, and we could verify that he was where he said he was.
All of that was documented, not by Matt, but by the border officials. It was about as good an alibi as you could get. It was, in fact, backed up by the government.
With Matt cleared as a suspect, investigators ask him for any information that could lead to Dana's killer.
Matt said that he was on the phone with Dana on the night of the murder, and she seemed a little bit inhibited by some of her conversation. And that suggested that Dana might have had somebody in the house.
Matt suggests the mystery person could have been Dana's estranged husband, Steve.
Steve would certainly be a natural person to go talk to. And this was someone she'd shared part of her life with. But the state of being separated is a difficult state to be in emotionally. And depending on what else was going on, it could lead to that kind of anger that was necessary for this killing.
Steve might be jilted and angry enough to kill her, or they may just have had a planned meeting to exchange the children, could have erupted into a spontaneous argument, which led to the murder. All of these were possibilities that we had to look into.
Detectives dig into Steve and discover he took out a life insurance policy on Dana.
The factor of a life insurance policy would be a motive for murder for financial reasons.
When we look at early typologies of murder, one of the earliest classification, even going back to the 1920s, classified gain or a financial motive as being one of the primary motivators for homicide.
We also felt that passion, jealousy, anger at having the family split up would be a possible motive for him wanting to kill Dana.
With Dana's ex-husband in their crosshairs, detectives bring him down to the station for questioning.
As we talked to Steve about his relationship with Dana, he was found to be unusually locked up and reserved in his emotions, kind of a flat affect. He was not very expressive.
Then, detectives notice another suspicious detail.
It was noted that he had abrasions to his knees, and Dana had abrasions to her knees and elbows. We felt that the two of them might have scuffled together on the night that she was murdered. When we asked Steve about the abrasions to his knees, he said he got them playing baseball. But then one of the detectives that was there happens to be a real baseball fan, and he said it was his opinion that those abrasions were not consistent with injuries that you get playing baseball. At that point, Steve really moved up at the top of the list of suspects.
But did Steve have the opportunity to kill Dana?
When we asked Steve where he was on the night of the murder, he said he was at home 5 hours away from Puyallup. He said he put the kids in bed, went out and gassed up the vehicle, got up the next morning and drove to a local campsite.
His alibi is interesting. The fact that the triplets are conveniently out of the house for the murder, that could be a coincidence. It could also speak to planning and that the children couldn't be there for that particular day because he had plans for her.
The round trip from where Steve lived to where Dana lived is 10 hours. So we really looked at the possibility of Steve being able to put the kids in bed and drive to Puyallup, kill Dana, turn around and drive back, or have the kids in the car asleep, drive to Puyallup, kill Dana, and drive back.
If Steve did make the trip to Dana's house, investigators know he would have needed to stop for gas along the way.
We retraced the steps and the route that Steve would have taken, checked for possible places where Steve might have gassed up. We checked the surveillance cameras, any indicators along the roadway that would have picked up his car. There was no evidence to support the theory that Steve made that route.
Not finding any evidence connecting Steve to the crime, investigators rule him out as a suspect.
Now they eliminated all the suspects, and when they did that, the investigation kind of hit a brick wall. It was a source of frustration for them.
We had reached a point in the investigation where we didn't have a very good suspect, a very good plausible explanation as exactly how the homicide occurred. We were kind of at an impasse, and with the positioning of Dana, the way she was covered with the blankets afterwards, that's very unusual offender behavior. So I felt it was necessary for an FBI profile to be done on the case. So I contacted the FBI.
The local police department may not be able to say, hey, I've seen this behavior in the past. Hey, I've seen this indicator in the past for all the other homicides we had. The FBI brings that background, that experience, and that knowledge to help the police identify additional suspects.
After reviewing the case, the FBI offers up the theory that this crime wasn't planned, but happened in the heat of the moment.
They infer that this was a crime of passion, crime of rage, and very improvised. And it speaks to an offender who is more disorganized than organized and who is acting impulsively.
The FBI said that the person who came to Dana's house that night did not come to the house to kill her. And it's likely that whoever killed her was somebody who knew her, who was conversing with her, and then would have flown into a rage and attacked her.
The police looked at the estranged husband. They'd looked at the boyfriend. They'd looked at the stalker. Now the police had to figure out new suspects who weren't as obvious. Somebody did this. They just had to figure out who that was.
Armed with new information from the FBI, investigators expand their search in the brutal murder of Dana Lascowski.
So now we were looking for somebody who was prone to flying into a rage, had upper body strength, maybe somebody that Dana would have rebuffed in advance from.
Looking for new leads, detectives examine the video footage from Dana's funeral.
It was important to see who went to the funeral, but it was also important to see how people acted at the funeral.
From a psychological standpoint, you want to see A, who's in attendance, B, how they're responding. It's entirely possible that the killer is present. When you think about most people being killed by someone they know, odds are that those persons or people are going to be at the funeral because it would be socially unacceptable not to. And then how do they manage that situation? Is there something that could reveal themselves and their involvement to investigators?
As police look through the guest book, they make an unexpected discovery.
Loved ones wrote comments in there such as, they miss Dana. They can't believe she's passed away. They miss her dearly, think about her often. Then there was an entry from a niece, and she said, "I'm sorry I wasn't a better niece. I've been clean and sober 34 days now. It's all because of you." And some of the family members described the niece as unruly and wild. But the entry told us that the niece had gone clean and sober after Dana's death.
But even more importantly, she was doing it for Dana, which showed two things. One was her love for Dana, but it also showed that she felt guilt for some reason for her aunt's death. And that was important. It suggested that she may have been involved either shortly before or even during or after, somehow.
Detective Bramhall sets his sights on Dana's niece, Amanda.
I called Amanda, but I asked her to come in for an interview. And Amanda, we're talking about the death of your Aunt Dana.
Yes.
I know this is hard for you.
Amanda tells the detective that she and her aunt were close, almost like mother and daughter. She adds that Dana was always there for her and her friends.
Amanda and her friends, they call themselves the Park Rats, which we on the police department are well familiar with. They're kids that hang out at Pioneer Park. And they're kids that don't have good homes. They don't have a stable home environment. And drug use is their common bond as they're hanging out in the park.
This whole group was like right out of high school. They didn't really have plans. I think high school was behind them. They didn't know what was ahead of them. They weren't home doing their homework. They weren't helping little old ladies across the street. It's a nice town, but to the extent that there was a rough group, this was that group. Dana tried to be a safe place for Amanda and her friends. Amanda could go to Dana's place, no questions asked, any time of day or night, and she could bring her friends if she needed to. That was significant when the police remembered Dana's back door was unlocked that night.
Investigators ask Amanda what she knows about her aunt's murder and quickly get a lead.
So she gave me the list of names of the people that had been in the house, and she did kind of focus on one individual, Zane. She describes Zane as somebody with a lot of upper body strength and yet a temper. Zane is somebody who dealt in marijuana.
Then, Amanda makes an even more alarming statement.
Amanda went in to describe how Zane made an advance at her, and she rebuffed him, and that he bent her over the couch and was being physical.
He tried to come on to me, and I was like, what are you doing? Get away from me. And he proceeded to act like he was, pounding me from behind and like holding my head down, and I'm like, stop. I mean, screaming, and he wouldn't stop. And then I remember, he thought it was funny, and he was laughing, and he's has a lot of strength, and he could hold me down.
This was almost consistent with the murder as we understood it. I undertake a look at Zane, and I look in our files. He's got a criminal history, dealing in drugs, violence. So he was enough in the criminal element to be a very good suspect.
Detective Bramhall reaches out to one of his younger informants to see what he knows about Zane.
I had a sit down with him, and I talked to him about the murder of Amanda's aunt. And I suggested to him that Zane would be a good likely suspect. And he looked at me and he said, Zane didn't kill Amanda's aunt. Emily killed Amanda's aunt. Everybody knows that.
One of the people in Amanda's group was a young woman named Emily. Emily is 17. She's living on the streets or close to it. She's using drugs. Amanda and Emily were very close, maybe best friends.
Detective Bramhall is familiar with Emily from her troubles with the law in her past.
I said to this person, are you telling me that Emily, this little 5'2" girl, strangled a 36-year-old mother of 3? And he said, your records are old. Emily is not a skinny little 5'2" girl. She is very muscular. She has a picture of her biceps hanging from her rearview mirror. We call her mutant because she likes to wrestle and fight with the guys.
But you can imagine the police were a little bit hesitant to believe that that was the case, really. Because again, somebody had overpowered Dana fighting for her life. Emily's not a normal suspect.
Detective Bramhall digs into the story that Emily could be Dana's killer.
As they started to interview these park rats, one of the things that started to come out was that maybe the toughest of all of them was Emily. And that Emily would win arm wrestling and even regular wrestling, and that she had this strength that other people were really surprised by, even the boys.
Detectives bring Emily down to the station for questioning.
She's wearing a very short blouse, and it exposes her waist. And I'm thinking about the position that we found Dana Lascowski in, and it would have taken torso strength. And I can see the muscles along the side of Emily's spine and the small of her back. She's very muscular. And I'm now more convinced that she could be the offender.
Detective Bramhall confronts Emily with reports of her involvement in Dana's murder.
She puts her hands on the table, she puts her head back, and her eyes go side to side. And then she comes forward very angrily and she says, those people are lying. And I said, oh, really, Emily? All those people are lying.
You're seriously driving me insane. I didn't murder Dana Lascowski or whatever. No, there's no way it was me.
There's no way?
No.
And at that point, I was very persuaded that this is the murderer.
Police drill down on Emily, asking where she was when Dana was killed.
Emily and Amanda had told us that they were at a party at the time that Dana was murdered.
I was completely high out of my brain. And I was with Amanda like the whole time.
I found out that Emily and Amanda left the party at the same time another individual left the party. The other individual drove a given distance and made a purchase, and we got that receipt, so we had the time that Emily and Amanda had left the party around midnight. It was possible they made it to Dana's house before 1 a.m.
So they have information that they're concealing. They're likely involved in the crime. So what happened here? Could Emily be the killer?
With the circumstantial evidence stacking up against Emily in the Dana Lascowski murder case, police are granted a search warrant for the room she's renting.
One of the things that they found in Emily's room was a diary or a journal. And it had some of the typical stuff you'd expect from a 17-year-old girl, but it had a couple of things that you wouldn't necessarily expect. One was the bucket list. And one of the things on the list was to kill somebody and get away with it.
Then, police uncover another crucial piece of evidence.
There was an entry where she was angry at Amanda and wrote in there that she felt like strangling Amanda the way she'd strangled her aunt.
This shocking finding confirms Emily's guilt.
Emily's diaries talk about committing the homicide, strangling Dana, wanting to possibly strangle her niece Amanda in a similar way. And in my mind, that speaks to somebody who wants to dominate people, somebody who's getting self-esteem and power from committing such offenses, or even just knowing that should she want to, she's capable of doing it.
I confronted her with the entry in the diary, and I said, look, I could strangle her, referring to Amanda, just like her aunt. She says, well, it doesn't say I could strangle her just like I strangled her aunt.
Now, Dana, we found strangled to death in her house. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Thing is, we hadn't disclosed strangulation as the cause of death. So she was booked, held for $500,000 bail, and I could begin the investigation of Emily as the offender, the murderer of Dana Lascowski.
Detective Bramhall questions Amanda again, this time confronting her about the lies she's been telling about the night of Dana's murder.
And I said, what happened? And Amanda said, I don't know, I wasn't there. Why was Amanda misleading us?
I'm curious as to why you didn't tell me when we first met.
Scared of her. I was afraid that I would get hurt too.
You said you cared so much about your Auntie Dana, but you led us on a wild goose chase. I list all the points where she has lied.
It doesn't take long before Amanda cracks under the pressure, telling detectives everything she knows.
Before we even got there, Emily had said, oh, I want some money, we need money, and I had agreed. When we walked in the living room, Dana was up and awake. And she was surprised to see us. And, you know, and was like, Amy, Dana, we need money. And she had said that she didn't have any cash on her, and, you know, I was really fine with that. But Emily, you know, come on, Dana, just anything. We really need help, you know. We knew that she had some change and some dollars in a cabinet, and Dana was getting really irritated because she were high, and I'm sure we were jittery, and Emily started getting really upset and being really rude to Dana, so Dana wanted us to leave. And she kind of, you know, put her hand on Emily to, you know, push her out, and Emily didn't like that, and she wasn't having it, and she kept pushing Dana. And I kind of, you know, walked back a little bit because I didn't want to get involved, and I was yelling at him to stop. And then all I heard was little, you know, gagging noises and gagging noises, and I saw Emily on top of her.
Then Amanda says, Emily strangled my aunt right in front of my eyes. Sorry I didn't tell you earlier.
The fact that Amanda watches Emily murder her aunt and does nothing, I think either speaks to the fact that she too was afraid of Emily, or this happened so quickly that she probably didn't even realize what she was witnessing, and that's not uncommon.
With Amanda's cooperation, investigators are now able to fill in the final 24 hours of Dana's life.
That night, Emily and Amanda had left the party around midnight. Then they made it to Dana's house before 1 a.m. They came in the back door. They were on drugs. Dana was on the couch in the living room. They went in to try to get some money. Dana said, I'm not going to give you any money. And Emily said, I want some money. And then there was a point where Dana said, enough, you girls are going to have to leave. And Dana stood up and she touched Emily, and Emily exploded. And then Emily attacked her and strangled Dana Lascowski.
Amanda watched Emily attack Dana, and Amanda yelled at her to stop, but it was too late.
It was over. The scream that the neighbor reported hearing at 1 o'clock on the night that Dana was murdered turned out not to be Dana's scream, but rather Amanda's scream.
Emily then positions Dana's body on the couch under blankets.
They grabbed a few dollars that Dana had around and got out of there.
On the way out, Emily stops and takes some of Dana's clothing.
Emily attended the funeral of Dana. She wore these clothes to the funeral. This was her display of power and dominance. I wore these clothes because I can. Look at what I did. I may describe her best as somebody who's a fledgling psychopath. She was young. Typically, you know, psychopaths are adults. It takes several years for behavior to develop. We clearly see there's a pattern here of conduct disorder, and then there's a murder.
The one unanswered question plaguing investigators is motive.
Emily told her friends, well, Amanda kept ditching me for her aunt, And Emily specifically said she was not sorry she killed Dana.
Perhaps Emily wanted to kill Dana to have Amanda all to herself. Amanda, she was reportedly close to Dana. It's entirely possible that she killed Dana as a message to Amanda. Amanda was present when this occurred. So what message is that sending to Amanda? I've done this and now I can do this to you?
Despite her role in Dana's murder, Amanda is given a plea deal and sees no prison time.
We had a lot of discussion about what we're going to do with Amanda. We certainly had her for robbery, but I felt that we needed her as a witness because she witnessed the murder. And if we charged her with a crime, she'd have the right to remain silent. So we decided that we were going to treat her as a witness.
With Amanda's testimony, Emily is charged with the murder of Dana Lascowski, but her case never goes in front of a jury.
Emily pled a Newton plea wherein she does not admit guilt. She just admits if she were to go to trial, there would be enough evidence to convict her. Emily was convicted for manslaughter in the first degree. She received a sentence of about 7 years.
After serving just 5.5 years in prison, Emily is released in 2008. She moves back to Puyallup, gets married, and has children.
The fact that Emily is out there walking around right now is concerning. These are not compulsions that just go dormant. She's already killed once. She had no regrets. She wore the victim's clothing to the funeral, much the way serial killers carry around souvenirs and trophies taken from their crimes to relive it. She should be under continued observation by police.
This case was a genuine whodunit. Most of the murders we go to, we know exactly what happened even before we get there. This one, we didn't understand going into it, but we were able to get on the right path to get this solved. And I'm glad to bring it to light. It was my job to do it, and I did my job.
This case was complicated because there was a lot of emotion and there was a lot of personal connections with everyone involved, and this was a terrible tragedy. A woman, a mother, an aunt who shouldn't have died that night. And then a 17-year-old girl who killed her, who shouldn't have killed her that night. And no matter what the justice system does, it doesn't bring Dana back.
Everybody loved Dana, and she is out of the life of her father, of her mother, and her kids are triplets. They were 8 years old at the time, and they grew up without her. So this is not justice, but in murder, nobody good wins.
This wasn't just a single gunshot wound to the chest and run away. Somebody wanted her dead.
A cold-hearted execution.
You see this type of stuff on TV, not real-life drama.
A bizarre mystery with multiple suspects.
He said they're actually having a three-way sexual relationship.
In homicides, it's not uncommon for an affair, lust, to be the motivator to cause somebody to commit murder.
The truth will be revealed.
He was my best friend for a long time.
It just doesn't sit right. You know there's more to the story.
Oh my God.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. Yakima, Washington, a beautiful valley full of lush farmland in the heart of the state.
Yakima Valley is a great place. We have over 300 days of sunshine a year. We can go skiing in the winter. And we go water skiing throughout the summer in the local lakes.
99% of the population are wonderful, genuine people.
We have our everyday break-ins, burglaries, thefts, quite common. But most of the time, it's a pretty safe place to be.
But on a quiet evening, the tranquility of this rural valley is shattered forever.
That night I was working graveyard shift patrol. 911 call came in about 8:28 in the evening.
Sheriff's office.
Hi, ma'am. This is Scott Sunford.
The person who was calling was concerned because he had received several alarm trips from the house during the day and hadn't been able to get hold of his wife.
Okay, did somebody break into the residence?
I don't know. I've been out of town and I haven't been able to get a hold of the wife, so I was just hoping somebody can come meet me out there. Probably nothing, but I would feel better.
Okay. All right, we'll get someone out there.
The house that we were responding to was on a very long road. No street lights. The houses are set back a little bit. So I pull to the left of Mr. Sunford, and he has his door open of his car, and I can see that he has a gun by his side. He has a spotlight on, and I'm trying to figure out why he's set this way, almost tactically like a police officer would. I don't know. Maybe he's watching TV and he just sees this is how cops stand. And I asked him, "Did you go inside and look?" He says, "No, I don't know what's in there. I don't want to get hurt." So we decided that we're gonna go ahead and make an entry into this house. I have my duty pistol drawn. I'm in the low ready, and I'm what they call cutting the pie, and just working the angles of the door, protecting myself. I open the door, and it's dark, but I can see through ambient light. And I turn to the right to go down the hallway, maybe about 7 feet. And I saw that there's a body laying on the ground. I can see the bullet casings to her left. And as I peer over her body, I'm looking into the bedroom, and I can see more bullet casings on the ground. And looking down at her, it's obvious to me that she's dead.
The woman is 30-year-old Desiree Sunford.
Desiree was a very well-liked school teacher. She had a lot of friends, loved by her family, was not known to get in any trouble whatsoever. Just a good-natured human being.
Scott and Desiree Sunford were married in 2003. He worked at the local military training center here in Yakima County. They were into motorcycles. They enjoyed outdoor activity.
Heading up the investigation into Desiree Sunford's murder is veteran detective Dave Johnson.
Any homicide is a big puzzle. Who has the means and who has the motive to kill this individual? Who has what to gain?
The first order of business, examining the body to try and determine time of death.
Based on lividity, which is the pooling of the blood in the body, rigor mortis, which is the hardening of the muscles, Desiree had been dead anywhere between 12 and 18 hours. That gives us a place to start on our timeline. So I arrived there at 9:30 in the evening. It's going to put that timeline sometime between 9 o'clock that morning and 3:30 in the morning.
Having established a window of death, detectives will now need to unravel the last 24 hours of Desiree's life to catch her killer.
From the collection of the evidence at the scene, the shell casings, and then the autopsy, she was shot 9 times.
It was obvious that she had tried to crawl away. From experience, that when somebody's shot at numerous times like that, there was an intent to kill that person. Somebody wanted her dead. This wasn't just a single gunshot wound to the chest and run away.
Detectives survey the crime scene looking for more evidence.
We did find a bloody footprint of a boot that had been left there at the scene. Whoever committed this crime had stepped in the blood and then walked out. We were able to determine what type of boot that was, the size, 12 to 14. We're looking at a fair-sized individual with a large shoe. During the processing of the crime scene, we were able to recover her cell phone. We know she was alive at 10:30 the night before when she's talking to her mom. And we know that the alarm went off around 3:30 that morning. So it's starting to give us a timeline of what kind of activity is going on. It gives us an indication that they broke into the home, the alarm goes off, she wakes up. She got up to find out why the alarms were going off at 3:30 in the morning. Sees who it is, turns to run, and then she was shot.
Detectives learned that the Sunford residence had been burglarized a few weeks earlier. The thief stole their laptop computer, jewelry, and a jewelry box.
The back door of the house was broken into. Scott Sunford had boarded it up, and it appears that they had broke back into the same place as the last burglary.
The first person detectives question is Desiree's husband, Scott Sunford.
We disarmed him. We took his gun from him for obvious reasons. He was very proud of that gun. He told us where he had got it, and it's quite interesting how he wanted to have a conversation about this handgun, which, hey man, do you remember we just told you your wife is dead in the house? I mean, and you want to talk about this handgun you've got. Just odd, completely odd.
He just lost his wife of 10 years. And he didn't ask what happened. He didn't ask how she died. He didn't ask, did she suffer, or anything that we call normal responses.
So when someone is informed that, somebody that they know or has been involved with is viciously murdered, you're obviously looking to see what their reaction may be. You want to see, is it socially acceptable? Is it something that seems fitting with the situation at hand, or does it not seem to match? These are all very important reactions and all mean different things.
Scott explains that he had been away in the Tri-Cities for a funeral, an hour and a half away.
When was the last time that you actually talked to her on the phone?
The last time I talked to her was at the funeral service.
On Saturday?
Yeah.
So you talked to her yesterday evening, and did she indicate that anything was wrong or everything seemed okay?
No, it was fine. Yeah, it was just a quick, hi, yeah, it looks like I'm gonna stay. It's going kind of long. Love you. Talk to you soon. See you tomorrow,
When the alarm had gone off that Sunday morning, and he's notified through the alarm company, what he told us, it didn't seem to bother him. He figured it was Desiree getting up, letting the dog out, or not setting the alarm right, and so it wasn't a big concern.
He didn't start to worry until later that day, on the drive home.
The alarm system was set to arm stay, meaning that she's at home, so she should be home. So why isn't she answering me? And that scared me. And I headed to the house, and I pulled down the driveway. And I stayed there. I kept waiting. I couldn't go in. I didn't know what the hell to do.
And the question is, why didn't he go in? Why wouldn't he have gone in?
He's a combat veteran, armed with a .45, 6'4", 250 pounds. You would think if a man, a husband's there and he thinks his family's in trouble, he'd go through fire.
So I felt that kind of threw a flag, gave me a flag. This isn't right. This isn't normal.
Suspicious of his story, detectives take Scott down to the station for further questioning.
He's put in one of our 2 interview rooms. And while he's sitting there alone in the room, he's trying to deep breathe. He's talking to himself. Pull yourself together, don't cry. like he's trying to psych himself up, getting ready for the hard questions that's going to be asked of him.
I've been a police officer 28, 29 years, and this was one of the strangest reactions I have ever seen from anybody.
Given that Desiree had been killed sometime between Saturday night and Sunday morning, detectives asked Scott for a detailed account of his whereabouts that weekend.
I left the house at probably 8:30. I went down to the Tri-Cities. I went to the service, and from that point on, I was with my dad and grandpa.
He spent the afternoon there with relatives after the funeral, and then he called Desiree and said, because of the weather, I'm going to stay here, spend the night, and I'll come home Sunday. During the interview, Scott did say that instead of staying with his dad, who lives down there, he did go to another home.
Then you stayed at your dad's in Kennewick?
No, I actually stayed with a friend, but...
What's the friend's name?
Oh, her name's Paige. She's a mutual friend.
What time do you think you arrived at Paige's house?
I'd say 12:30-ish. She had already went and laid down, so I had to go wake her butt up.
Did Desiree know that you were going to Paige's?
I don't know, honestly.
Was it just a platonic friendship, or did you have a sexual relationship with Paige?
No, and honestly, we didn't even do anything. I was out on the couch anyways.
He said that he just spent the night there. He slept on her couch. That just didn't fit well with us. He's a grown man and she's a grown woman. That definitely raised red flags for the team.
In homicides, it's not uncommon for an affair, lust, to be the motivator to cause somebody to commit murder.
So is this his alibi? Is he out of town? Is he really out of town? We need to go find Paige.
After discovering Desiree Sunford shot to death in her home, investigators attempt to validate her husband's alibi by tracking down a woman by the name of Paige Blades.
Paige is a single mother. She was in the military at one point. Now she works at a food manufacturing company, lives a few miles from there. We told Paige that Desiree had been killed. That's why we're there, to find out Scott's activity. He said he was with Paige.
When was the last time that you saw Scott?
Last Saturday, 2 nights ago. He came, he had a funeral in Tri-Cities, and we met for dinner up there, and he ended up coming back here to spend the night.
So you met him in the Tri-Cities, and then you guys came back here together?
No, I met him and I came home and dropped my son off with his dad. Scott didn't come until about 11 o'clock, 11:30 that night.
Her statement was almost verbatim with Scott's statement that he came at a certain time, he left at a certain time. We thought she was very forthright, very honest with us.
Did he coach you at all about what to say when we came to talk to you?
No. He told me that he had been completely honest and that he hadn't hidden anything.
But there is one notable difference between Paige and Scott's stories.
What was the nature of your relationship with Scott?
He's my best friend.
Your best friends?
When we first met, I was drinking really a lot. He helped me sober up. He helped me with a lot of personal issues that I was going through. We became intimate probably later that first year.
He told us that it was just a friendship, that he slept on her couch, and she said, no, it's a lot more than that. We've been having an affair, and we do sleep with each other, and it was just not a casual relationship. Obviously, Scott was hiding something from us. We're wondering what other things he's hiding from us. Just adding to those red flags from the initial time we first met Scott at the home the night of the homicide.
Detectives confront Scott about his affair with Paige. But what Scott tells them next turns the case in an entirely new direction.
Well, Des didn't want me to say anything to anybody, but she kind of had mixed feelings. So at one point, her and Paige had a little thing going for a while there, a little experiment.
Okay, so it was Desiree and Paige who had the sexual relationship?
Yeah.
But not you and Paige? Or
we all did.
Sometimes you and Paige too?
Honestly, we all did.
Scott tells us they're actually having a three-way sexual relationship.
It's kind of one of those things where as long as we're going to do anything, we need to make sure we all are fine with doing anything.
So it's
everybody stays informed, avoid hard feelings.
Scott told us that they were just one happy big family and everybody got along, that there was no conflict going on at all. We just didn't buy it.
It just doesn't sit right. You know there's more to the story.
Whenever you have a case involving, let's say, open relationships or polyamorous swinging relationships, and you have someone saying, you know, it's consensual, everyone's on board with this, frequently, there's usually someone who's not. And when you have the one person who can maybe confirm if it's one or the other, when they end up dead, it looks more like the latter, a love triangle, and not a consensual open relationship.
Detectives aren't buying Scott Sunford's story, so they work to physically link him to the crime.
So we get another search warrant to go through the house and collect any boots, clothing that would maybe connect Scott to the crime scene. We're looking for boots that may match the footprint that we found at the scene. We compared the shoes that we recovered from Scott's residence to the bloody footprint that we found at the scene, and they were not a match. Scott's still on top on the list, but as far as physical evidence or even probable cause to take him into custody, we have nothing at this point.
The only other person of interest they have is the third wheel in Scott and Desiree's relationship, Paige Blades.
In this case, where there's so many different scenarios at play, it can be pretty complicated to narrow down a motive, and in some ways there might be multiple ones. You know, my read of this case is perhaps it's long on lies and short on facts. So how do you determine what individual motivations are and how they played out to, you know, murder?
Investigators dig into Desiree's cell phone messages, looking for insight into the nature of her relationship with Paige.
There was a series of text messages between Desiree and Paige. They seemed to be contradicting from what Scott had been telling us so far, with Desiree really aware and comfortable with their sexual encounters. Desiree writes, "You guys' comfort level with each other is much higher than I'm okay with." Paige returns a text, "I'm sure I could have sex with him. I just don't think about it because he's married." Desiree then says, "I'm just getting frustrated. You two chat and show pics, and I tend to be left out." Over time, it's starting to bug me. And Paige says, "I try to stay out of the way as much as possible. I understand if you don't want me here."
But one text in particular reveals a possible motive for Paige to kill Desiree.
Paige said that if anything ever happened to Desiree and Scott needed a new wife, that Paige would be the new wife, that she would be waiting in the wings for him. They're not smoking guns, but they're certainly giving us a lot of red flags to look at. But we still don't have any physical evidence. We just have some text messages that is not a crime, and this is a motive. Why is Desiree killed? If Scott and Paige want to continue their lives, the motivation would be get rid of Desiree.
Investigators are zeroing in on Scott and Paige as the prime suspects in Desiree Sunford's murder.
We're not sure who the dominant individual is in this relationship. Is it Scott manipulating Paige, or is it Paige manipulating Scott? It could go either way at this point in the investigation.
Then, they get a phone call that tips the balance towards Paige.
We get information through a tip that Paige is pregnant. That kind of puts a new twist in the situation. Okay, whose baby is it? Is it Scott's? Is Paige more involved in it? She wants Scott all to herself. Did she have something to do with Desiree's death?
It's possible that, Paige is a strong suspect. She's the other woman. She may present as a femme fatale character, somebody who's using her sexuality or her seductive appeal to be able to manipulate others in terms of getting what she wants. That could be love, that could be money, that could be power.
As we look at Paige's phone records, we cannot put her anywhere near the Sunford home the night of the homicide. So as far as we can tell, she's not the killer itself, but that doesn't eliminate that she may know more than what she's telling us or directing someone to do it for her.
Gut feeling tells me Paige didn't reveal everything. I think there's more to this than meets the eye.
While investigators suspect that Scott and Paige conspired to kill Desiree, they don't have the evidence to prove it.
Well, the case is really basically cold. At this point in the investigation, we're starting to be a little frustrated. We all believe that Scott is involved. We believe that Paige may be involved, but we have no hard evidence. The families that are involved also get frustrated with us. They're calling us sometimes daily. What's going on with the case? They're hurting. They're grieving. They want somebody held accountable for their loved one's death, and we want to give that closure to them.
Over a year goes by with no leads, until detectives get an anonymous phone tip that turns the case around.
So 15 months later, we get a call that says Marty Grismer is the person who killed Desiree Sunford. Well, that doesn't help us a lot other than it gets us excited we got somebody to talk to.
This is the first time detectives have even heard the name Marty Grismer. They need to track down the source of the tip to find out more.
We work over several hours trying to figure out who made this phone call. We're able to track down this individual. It's actually Paige. This is a huge break if it's the right information. So we convince her to come to Yakima. We're okay. Paige, when did you find out about this? How do you know Marty?
Marty was my best friend for a long time.
Turns out Marty and Paige have a relationship. They're good friends. They're colleagues at work.
So why don't you just tell me in your own words what you've heard, how you heard it. I think that's as good a place as any.
Last week, I had Scott over, and we were arguing, and I asked Marty to come over and get the baby. So he came over and he picked him up, and everything was fine. Scott was asleep.
At this time, Scott is now no longer interested in Paige. Scott's moved on and has another woman in his life.
I told him what was going on. And he asked me if I wanted him to take care of this new woman like he did Des. And I asked him what he was talking about.
And then it was shortly around that time that Marty confessed that he killed Desiree.
We had just found out about 3 weeks before the shooting that I was pregnant. Marty was one of the first people that I told. And apparently he decided that if the baby was Scott, then Desiree would cause issues. Oh my God.
She explains that Marty will do anything for her to make sure she's happy. And if that means taking out Desiree, he'll do it. And he did.
It could also be that Marty is trying to frame Scott for this murder so that he and Paige can then get together. At some level, though, I think that there has to be a latent antisociality here. He can't just be infatuated. You have to be a person who's infatuated and willing to do something criminal in order to achieve your goal.
What was your reaction when he started telling you all this?
I was in shock. I just mostly just sat and listened. I asked him how he thought he was going to get away with it.
What do you say to that?
I said, I already have.
If the information Paige is giving them is true, it could be the break they've been looking for. But something doesn't sit right about Paige's story.
We were excited. We had a suspect. We had a confession, but we don't have anything to back it up. It was a strange motive with Marty wanting to take care of something and not getting anything in return. That was strange. So we're wondering how much Paige is trying to redirect this information. Is she directing us the wrong way again? Get the light off of her and Scott and threw Marty under the bus? I've never had a case like this take a twist like this before. You see this type of stuff on TV and fiction, not real life drama. But, you know, I've been doing this a long time, and sometimes you can't make this stuff up.
Paige Blades has just told police that Marty Grismer confessed to murdering Desiree Sunford in a misguided attempt to make her life better. But detectives aren't fully convinced.
We're getting a feeling that Paige is a kind of a worldly young lady. She's had many relationships. We're not sure how she manipulates everybody in these relationships. We have thoughts that, okay, is she trying to point us in a different direction, make Marty a scapegoat? We don't know.
But Paige says she can prove she's telling the truth.
So our next move is Paige agrees to wear a wire, and Paige tries to get Marty to tell us everything he knows on tape.
Have you given any thought to when or where the safest place to meet him might be?
We work together, but I would really hate to do it at work.
So it wouldn't, you guys are close enough to where you could call him and say, hey, meet me here, and it wouldn't be a big deal. You guys
pretty much, yeah.
There are risks for having someone wear a wire when engaging with someone who's a person of interest in a violent crime. And legally, it can be seen as entrapment. Police officers are experts at getting confessions, and even they have difficulty. So the average person, even if they're very close to the person who committed the offense, is not necessarily going to be able to get a confession.
She was nervous. She was had some anxiety about it, but she was willing to do it and wanting to get this done. So we got the order, and a meeting was set up.
What is the word that we are using that if something bad happens that you were going to say?
Avalanche.
Okay, now I know you want to fight. If something happens, I'm going to ask you to yell avalanche several times. I want you to curl and lean away from him, okay?
Where are you guys going to be sitting?
We will be in parking lot.
Okay.
Probably less than 20 yards away, 25 yards away.
We have a team of investigators up there. They're posted in different locations around this coffee shop to not only be able to hear what's going on, but also be able to observe what's going on. And if Marty does confess to the crime on tape, we'll take him into custody.
Saved you a spot? Good. Give me a hug, asshole. Hey, I'm just saying, you didn't give me a hug last time I saw you. I was very hurt.
Paige is told that she can direct it a little bit, but We don't put anything into his mouth. It has to be all his statement.
Paige bides her time, looking for the right moment to bring up the murder.
Give me a minute of your time with nobody around. Because I know that you said that there was no evidence. So I'm just wondering for sure if there's nothing left.
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have anything. You haven't done anything.
You can't freak me out, put me in full-on panic mode, and then just be like, nope, I don't know what you're talking about.
There's nothing anywhere, anything on anything. It's as clear as mud, right?
Marty's not being very cooperative. We're not sure if he's getting a second sense of something going on, but he does not talk about the murder. Paige tries to direct him, come on, tell us what happened. And he's basically saying, I don't know what you're talking about.
I've smoked a carton and a half since last Friday. That's from all this stress.
Yeah.
I've calmed down a lot, but I'm still kind of in panic mode.
Can't imagine why you're panicking.
Oh, yeah. Gee, I wonder.
You got so much stress in your life on there. I don't know why you have such a break.
Right, because I haven't had any sort of
with reality,
confusing dreams with reality. Is that what happened?
I think Marty feels that something's wrong. Why is she up here? Why does she want to talk about this? Marty does not confess to the crime. Marty doesn't give any indication that he's involved. And so we all go home with a failure. It takes an emotional toll on any investigator in a case like this.
These detectives go out there and they bust their butts, and their sole purpose is to get justice for the family. It's their job. Not only is it their job, but it's something they believe in. They want to solve this crime.
Yeah, we're back to square one. We're not sure what we think of Paige right now.
Then, they get a surprising phone call that leads to securing the first real piece of hard evidence in the entire investigation.
We received a call from the company where Marty worked. The office was being cleaned out where Marty worked, and a plastic bag of gun parts were found. And the company called us and said, you'd be interested to look at these. We drove there immediately, recovered those gun parts, and sent them off to the lab. We recovered the bullets from Desiree's body. Through the analysis of the crime lab, they were able to say those bullets came from that barrel. That would be called the smoking gun. That barrel's connected with Marty. Those bullets came from that barrel that came from Desiree. Those are the dots that you connect that Marty is our suspect.
Having discovered the murder weapon, detectives close in on Marty Grismer.
One team goes to the father's house. One team stands back while we contact Marty at his apartment. Marty is taken into custody voluntarily.
With the evidence stacked against him, detectives are hoping for a confession.
Your life is not ready to change depending on the answers you're giving us.
I know that.
That's how serious this is.
And we start confronting him with the facts that we have from Paige about the homicide. He denies everything, but he's getting very, very nervous, even to the point where he said he's almost sick.
Have you ever discussed killing her with Paige?
No.
Did she ever ask you to kill Desiree Sunford?
No. No one's ever asked me to kill anyone. I wouldn't. I've never thrown a punch in anger in my life. I wouldn't kill anyone. It's not who I am.
Where the problem comes in is that Paige is saying that you are the one who shot and killed Desiree Sunford. She said that you confessed that to her. And she came in and gave a taped statement to that effect.
He does admit that he bought gun barrels from a certain company, which matched the barrel that we had, that we found at the workplace, but he had no confession, no detail regarding the homicide of Desiree Sunford.
I can't believe that. Just trying to ruin my life here. I mean, I haven't done anything wrong other than that, but she's trying to engineer to set me up here, do something. I was saying to you that that killed someone under that. It makes me sick.
He was trying to give a little indication that maybe Paige was more involved. She had the issues with Scott. She had the issues with Desiree. Marty said that Paige borrowed his gun at about the time of the homicide.
Getting to the truth in this case is very hard. You have lies upon lies. You have many different deceptions at play here. And so you need to be able to look for additional forms of evidence that can rule in or rule out certain people of interest. You can't just take what people say at face value, because clearly we have some practiced liars in this scenario, people who are well-versed at using deception to get what they want.
Unsure whether Marty Grismer is lying, they search his residences, hoping to find something to settle the question of who killed Desiree once and for all.
While we were doing the search warrant of Marty's dad's home, we found shoes that matched the size of the footprint we found at the crime scene in the blood.
And that's not the only piece of incriminating evidence they find.
Workers at the plant where Marty worked found items that were connected to the Sunford burglary before the homicide. They found the laptop computer belonging to the Sunfords, the jewelry box belonging to Desiree Sunford, and jewelry belonging to Desiree Sunford. We had the information that Paige told us. We have the gun. Ballistics matched that barrel to the slugs recovered from Desiree. We felt we had a case enough to arrest him.
Detectives charge Marty Grismer with the first-degree murder of Desiree Sunford.
And Marty just didn't really give any major emotion that he hadn't already given us. He was upset, he felt sick. We arrested without incident. He was transported back to Yakima and booked in the county jail.
Investigators now believe they know what happened to Desiree in the final 24 hours of her life.
She did talk to her mother about 10:30 that night. It had been Saturday night before she died. She basically sounded like she was taking care of the dogs, doing some last-minute schoolwork, and Scott was gone for the weekend, and she was going to be uninterrupted. Based on what Marty told Paige, he left Moses Lake area about 1:30. It's about a 2-hour drive to Yakima. He arrives in Yakima, locates the key for the house that he knew about, opens up the door, sets off the alarm, walks in. Desiree wakes up. Confronts him. He fires his gun 9 times. Killing Desiree. And then he opens the rear door like to make it look like a burglary. Goes out the front door, and then he drives back to Moses Lake, burns his clothing, hides his gun parts later. If Marty had kept his mouth shut, he would have got away with it.
But one question still haunts detectives.
Was there any type of plan between Scott and Paige and Marty to commit this crime? Or was Marty working all by himself with his delusion of his relationship with Paige. We can only prove that Marty did it. We can only prove that Marty had the opportunity and the motive to do it and the items that was used in the crime.
Marty Grismer enters an Alford plea and is sentenced to 15 years in prison.
An Alford plea basically says the state has enough evidence to convict, but he's still denying any type of involvement, and he was sentenced to 15 years.
I don't think justice was fully served for the family. The prosecutor's office and the detectives did the absolute best they can with what they had. And I know the prosecutors and detectives are all sitting back thinking about this, knowing that there's another piece of that puzzle out there. There's something else that's out there. Somebody knows something.
May not be a great win, but I think for the family and for all the team involved, we got our guy. That is a win to put somebody in jail, that you can tell the family, this is who killed your daughter.
You can't bring back the memories. Her mother will never hold her again. Her mother will never get to talk to her again. Her mother will not be able to enjoy the possibility of grandchildren. So not only was Desiree Sunford's life cut short, but her family's life, in essence, was cut short as well.
He had 8 projectiles in his body, and one of them was in the middle of his head.
What we would call a stone-cold assassination.
An execution-style murder.
This person gunned him down and made sure that he was dead before he left.
In my 20 years in law enforcement, I've never seen such a brutal murder.
And nobody called 911 hearing gunshots.
A man with many enemies.
Some liked him, some didn't.
It was a pretty rough breakup. She was very irate and yelling and causing a scene.
There were notable run-ins that those two gentlemen had.
The truth will be revealed.
We have a love triangle, and one of these 3 is dead, and 2 of them are now together.
I thought, this might be the person who committed this crime.
Every day in North America, dozens of people are murdered. The key to solving the toughest of these homicides lies in the final 24 hours of the victim's life. To crack the case, detectives must reconstruct that critical timeline. The minutes and hours containing evidence that can help unlock the mystery and catch the killer. Tucson, Arizona. A high desert city with a lot of heart. A true desert rose.
Tucson is a larger city, but it has a very small community feel. You go downtown, people are very friendly.
Like any other major city with a population of about 1 million people, you're gonna see the same kind of problems as far as crime goes. But all in all, Tucson's a pretty safe city.
But on a hot summer morning, Tucson's quiet charm is shattered when a local woman makes a grisly discovery.
Christy Trepanitis was the person who called 911. She just found her loved one murdered.
911, do you have an emergency?
Yes, my fiance, I think, has been killed.
Why do you think that?
I just came to his house and it looked like there was bullet holes in the wall, and I just went up to the bedroom and he's just laying there and it looks like he has a bullet hole in his head.
Okay.
The victim is 45-year-old Nick Morelos.
Nick was a tough guy, a former United States Marine, served his country. He was really dedicated to his job at Marina Aerospace. And Nick didn't put up with any BS.
Some liked him, some didn't. He was just one of those people that was focused at the task at hand and held people accountable for their actions.
Heading up the investigation into Nick's murder is Detective Jennifer Garcia, a new recruit to Homicide.
This particular case was a big deal to me because this was going to be the first big homicide that I was in charge of, and I was the lead detective.
Investigators head directly to the crime scene, Nick's bedroom.
I opened the door as far as I could and entered the room and immediately observed Nicholas Morelos laying on the floor. He had 8 projectiles in his body, and one of them was in the middle of his head. What it showed me is that this person gunned him down and made sure that he was dead before they left.
Why would someone want to kill Nick Morales in such cold blood?
In my career, I've never seen such a brutal murder. We're trying to get a motive or a reason, and it didn't look like a burglary at that point.
Normally, if there's a homicide and a burglary, you're gonna find missing items, the TV's gonna be gone, valuables are gonna be gone. We didn't notice anything missing.
Detectives make another important discovery.
We also found 2 cleaning bottles that were next to the body. The floor felt sticky and smelled, to me, very much like cleaning solvent. It looked like a person was trying to clean up the fact that they were at the residence.
To solve Nick's murder, detectives must reconstruct the final 24 hours of his life.
When was the last time the victim was heard from or seen? When was the victim found? That's your major timeline that you're working with. And then you start talking to investigative leads, persons of interest, suspects, and everybody else involved, and then you narrow the timeline down.
They start their investigation by talking to Nick's fiancée, Christy, who found his body.
I didn't get any sense that she had anything to do with this crime, that she truly was upset. She appeared to be in shock. She appeared to be shaking at times when she spoke to us and tearful.
Christy had worked at Marina Aerospace, and that's how they became involved. She said he was a loving guy to the people in his life and close with his family.
Detectives question Christy about Nick's whereabouts on the day leading up to his murder.
On the day before he was murdered, it was a Sunday, he went to her residence. They spent the whole day together. He went back to his residence around 5:30 p.m. and they spoke a couple of times that evening, and the last time that she had contact with him was around 8:30 p.m. Christy relayed to us that Nick has to leave for work around 6 a.m. Around that time, he will normally either call her or send her a text message, but on Monday morning, she didn't hear anything. And by about 8:30, she had been calling and text messaging both of his phones, his personal phone and his work cell phone, and she had no answer. So she decided to drive over to Nicholas's residence to check on him.
Detectives theorize that Nick was brutally gunned down after texting Christy at 8:30 p.m. and before he was supposed to leave for work the next morning at 6:00 a.m.
With the evidence we were looking at this point, it appears that an assailant was firing into the house from the backyard. We picked up 11 spent .45 caliber casings at the scene. Each of these spent casings had a distinct mark on the back of the bullet itself. It's called the head stamp. We noticed that it had 5 distinct stars across the top, and then underneath that, it said .45 auto. This ammunition was made by an obscure company called Golden Eagle, which is ammo that's manufactured outside the United States and pretty much not used in this area.
When you find rare ammunition at a crime scene, this offers some opportunities, because when someone favors a particular or obscure brand, they're going to have likely bought that brand or make and model of ammunition in the past, and that in itself is a good discriminator that they have some involvement.
Detectives start developing a theory as to how the attack went down.
So we have bullet holes in multiple walls, which means Nick was moving, Nick was fleeing for his life during this assault on him.
Detectives proceed with examining the exterior of the house and make a surprising discovery.
When we went outside, you could see a gray, very large pit bull dog in the backyard.
The pit bull is Smokey, and he belonged to Nick.
If you look at a picture of Smokey, he's a big pit bull, and that's a scary-looking dog. Not many people want to tangle with a pit bull, so that's a problem for the killer to have to deal with.
Along with the pit bull, they uncover some important clues about the shooter.
We thought that they were on the ground shooting into the residence, but the trajectory showed us differently.
Following that trajectory out, it was parallel to the ground. There was no way someone was shooting at this house from the backyard of that residence to make these impact points.
The A-frame ladder was collapsed and closed, and it was propped up against the patio wall, which we kind of thought was odd. And it looked like somebody had climbed onto the patio roof and shot through the window, standing on the roof. You could see 2 defects into the stucco, so we could tell that somebody was outside shooting into the residence. There was also a couple of panes of glass on the patio roof that had a red substance on it. There was a red substance found on the bottom of the windowsill, and then a red substance found on the stucco area under the window. It was blood. We surmised that when this person entered the room, they received a cut on some part of their body.
Thinking someone may have seen the killer as they entered and exited Nick's home, detectives canvass the neighborhood.
We have Nicholas's neighbor saying that around 4 a.m., 4:15, she heard a strange noise. I believe what she is actually hearing is a projectile smashing the glass.
The neighbor's statement helps detectives significantly narrow Nick's time of death, but questions remain about the sound she heard.
We thought that there might be a silencer or a suppressor that was used in this crime because 11 projectiles were fired from a gun and nobody called 911 hearing gunshots.
The use of a silencer really has one purpose, which is to conceal the sound of a gunshot. But even though they're perfectly legal to own and use in the state of Arizona, they're not necessarily easy to fire with. That tells us that this is an experienced shooter who not only acquired the necessary equipment, but has put some rehearsal into firing with a silencer.
A silencer explains why the neighbor couldn't distinguish the sound of gunshots. But why wouldn't she hear Smokey barking in the backyard if there was an intruder?
The dog was reported to, I think, have slept in Nick's bedroom. So this speaks to routine. And so when folks are interviewed and they don't hear the dog outside, there's a number of theories, I think, that could explain this. One is that a person known to Nick and the dog did this to be able to remove it from inside and take outside. Or another one is somebody with information about either how to manage animals or had information about Smokey in particular could have done it.
So now you have somebody going in through the bedroom window, somebody staying and cleaning up, somebody who effectively used a silencer and evaded detection in that way. You could conclude that the killer was more sophisticated, what we would call a stone cold assassination, and probably somebody who knew Nick.
Nick Morales was gunned down in his own home, the victim of a targeted attack. Believing the killer to be someone in Nick's circle, detectives shift their investigation to his workplace, Marana Aerospace.
Nick was the director of maintenance, and he's really kind of a success story as far as how he rose up through the ranks of the company.
We were looking to see what his involvements were at work, and did he have any issues or problems with any current employees or past employees that may be bad enough to where it gravitated towards something like this happening.
We made contact with the human resources director. Nicholas had several negative exit interviews where ex-employees had mentioned his name and had mentioned his managerial skills as one of the reasons why they left the company. That kind of led us to talk to some of the employees there and try to figure out what was going on with Nick at work.
One of the first employees detectives speak with is James LePan.
Nick had a really important position there at Marana Aerospace. James, not so much. He was somebody who worked on inspections on the airplanes, but certainly had not risen to Nick's level in the organization.
Police ask James about his relationship with Nick.
In the weeks before Nicholas's murder, James had made a couple of complaints, and there were a couple of issues at work between Nicholas and James. When we asked him about his working relationship with Nick, he stated that it was tumultuous. Nick was always on him at work. He yelled at him.
James felt that he was being targeted and possibly picked on by Nick Morelos.
There were notable run-ins that those two gentlemen had, and so that's a known factor. James didn't like Nick because of work. And we've seen that as a motive for murder before.
Flagging James and Nick's working relationship, Detective Garcia proceeds to question James about where he was the night Nick was murdered.
I asked him what his schedule was. Sunday all day, he spent the day with his family. They went to the grocery store, they ate dinner. Him and his wife were working on their marriage because they were having problems with their marriage, so they watched like a Bible counseling session on the computer with one of his relatives. They went to bed around 9 p.m. and got up at around 6 a.m. Him and his wife worked out together, and then she went to work.
With a corroborated alibi, James is removed as a suspect. But he reveals he's not the only employee who had problems with Nick.
We found that Nick had many ex-girlfriends, and a couple of them had worked at Marana Aerospace.
You could say Nick was a womanizer.
So then you start looking at exes, ex-girlfriends, ex-wives, and you try to figure out if they had anything to do with the homicide, or if anybody that they're with now, new boyfriends, new husbands, if they had any issues with Nicholas.
Working backwards, detectives meet Nick's most recent ex-girlfriend, Claudia, a former employee at Marana Aerospace.
When I spoke to Claudia, she was very cooperative. She described Nick as a good person. The relationship was very good. The breakup was very amicable. She was a lot younger than him, and I think she wanted to focus on a family, and he was already past that threshold in his life. She provided any information that I asked. I didn't feel like she was hiding anything, and I didn't feel like she had anything to do with this homicide.
Claudia is a non-starter as a suspect. But when Detective Garcia asks if there is anyone else she thinks would have had reason to kill Nick, she offers up a name, Jessica.
Jessica also works at Marana Aerospace, and she was also Nicholas's ex-girlfriend.
A year before his murder, Nick had been dating Jessica, and then suddenly there's a split with her and he's with Claudia.
It was a pretty rough breakup. And shortly after she moved out, Claudia had moved in. One day, Jessica went to Nick's house when Claudia was inside the residence and was banging on the door, wanting to go in, wanting to talk to Nicholas and Claudia. She was very irate and yelling and causing a scene, and she said, "I know that Claudia's in here." So now we have an ex-girlfriend who was very irate, very hurt about the way the breakup with the victim, Nick, occurred. So that kind of raised a flag in my head.
Stalking behavior in a suspect is always cause for concern. It tells you potentially that somebody is fixated, obsessed, or they're engaging in boundary violating behavior, whether that's emotional or physical boundary violations by following you, attending your residence. That being said, I think it is interesting from a psychological standpoint that women are just as likely to engage in violence post-breakup as men. So the question for me is, does Jessica have the potential to perhaps be a suspect in this case? And if so, why?
When we look at Jessica, it's such a complicated picture. You know, often the question will be asked, what makes people kill? Other than maybe drugs and money, jealousy and rage and control around a relationship with a significant other is something that we see commonly, you know, and it's sad and tragic. But again, that type of rage, that jealous rage, is certainly enough to motivate a killing and does frequently.
Detectives have zeroed in on Nick Morales' jealous ex-girlfriend Jessica as a suspect in his brutal murder.
When I heard about this altercation at Nicholas's house, it was probably a pretty important piece of the puzzle in the investigation. So we wanted to speak to Jessica to get a statement from her.
Me and Nick, we've been seeing each other for a while. Me and my kids actually moved in with him. We lived with him for a few months, up until we found out that he had been also seeing another girl, Claudia. He got caught making out with her in the break room. That next day is when he moved me and my kids out of his house. We didn't exactly end on good terms, but...
Jessica never had a good word to say about Nick. She just really seemed burned up by the breakup. And so you have to pay attention to that when you've got his ex-girlfriend really kind of feeling hostile or venomous towards him.
Detectives confront Jessica about the day she pounded on Nick's door.
She was heartbroken. She was very upset that Claudia was in the house with Nick and she had just been kicked out of the house.
Jealousy can be a very powerful motive for murder. Even in most studies, it's consistently touted as being one of the top reasons why people kill other people. That being said, for me, envy is a bigger motivator. So envy is like jealousy. You covet what you can't have, but you also want to destroy it. And that, in my mind, makes a potential killer even more dangerous.
Jessica has a motive for murder, but did she have the opportunity to kill Nick?
What'd you do on Sunday?
Me and my daughter went over to my mom's house. I'd say probably about 3.
Okay. And then what time did you leave your mom's place?
I don't know, it was probably at least 7. Me and Shai went home and started watching a movie and I fell asleep.
Okay.
I think I had to be at work on 5 on Monday. But usually I get up 2 hours before I have to be at work, so I have time to take a shower and get ready, and then I have to take my dog out.
Okay.
She provided her phone for a forensic cell phone download and answered any questions that we had.
It turns out that the cell phone tower near Jessica's home was pinging between 7 p.m. and 5 a.m., confirming that she was at home and on the device this whole time. We know that she was nowhere near the crime scene.
With Jessica's credible alibi and no hard evidence against her, detectives remove her as a suspect. They pursue another lead that they got from Nick's other ex-girlfriend, Claudia.
Claudia had an ex-boyfriend named Justin, and Justin was a real concern.
Claudia said that her and Justin were engaged and they broke up. She just told him that she's moving out and she moved in with Nick immediately, and he was very hurt and upset at that.
As detectives dig deeper into Claudia's relationship with Justin, they uncover some troubling details.
Claudia had things to say about Justin that make Justin seem pretty scary. He showed up on horseback on one occasion near her house, which she thought was scary because it meant that he was popping up there, and she was worried about almost like kind of a stalking element to that behavior. Another time, Claudia's driving along with Nick, and Justin sees them and follows them. And Claudia lets Nick know what is happening, and Nick stops the car to get out, and Justin just takes off.
There was another time shortly after the murder where Justin had left her a note saying something along the lines of, "I heard what happened, I'm sorry," and he's talking about the homicide. "If you would like, I can buy you a drink sometime." So I thought that was odd.
Either way, to murder someone and remove them under the pretext that this is going to allow you to move in on an ex-girlfriend and begin courting them and taking them out is, number one, obsessive, but rather delusional.
Detectives also learn that Justin is an avid marksman.
In this investigation, there was a pretty specific weapon involved, a .45 caliber handgun. And so when I spoke to Claudia, she had mentioned Justin had many guns.
As detectives continue to put more of the pieces together, they come across a curious piece of information.
Claudia had mentioned that it was almost to the day, a year prior to the homicide, she had broken off the relationship with Justin.
So Justin has reason to be really upset with Nick, and, you know, the year to the day element just seems strange. It's like a strange coincidence.
We all know that in police work there are no coincidences, especially in murder investigations, especially in murders as seemingly organized as this one. So when they start to rack up in Justin's case, not surprisingly, he becomes the prime suspect.
With evidence of a credible motive, Detective Garcia hauls Justin in for questioning.
I'd like to talk to you about an investigation involving Claudia.
I'm assuming this probably has to do with, I guess, your ex-boyfriend. I'm guessing we just heard about this, but is that what it's about?
Who is her ex-boyfriend?
I don't know.
Okay.
People lie to the police all the time. So when you go talk to somebody, you have a 50-50 chance that they're either telling you the truth or they're lying. And you just have to, through your investigative skills, by putting all the pieces together, you have to figure out if this person is being honest with you or not.
Detective Garcia pushes Justin on how he's feeling about Claudia and the breakup 1 year later.
I was pretty broken up about it for like a long time, like 10 months. And then like, it all just stopped. Like all the bad stopped. It was awesome. I don't, really believe in God or whatever, but I was like, dude, just in case, I prayed. I was like, thank you.
At the time, it didn't seem like it bothered him anymore. And you gotta take that with a grain of salt. Is he really over it, or does he still have issues?
I've certainly seen cases where someone's breakup can lead them to take desperate measures. When you're fueled by passion, heartbreak, betrayal, that can make you do irrational things. And if someone is so desperate that they want to get someone back, or they can't stand seeing their ex-lover with someone else, they're not thinking straight, and it can turn deadly.
As the interrogation continues, Detective Garcia notices that Justin has a suspicious injury.
When I was talking to him and looking at him, I observed some superficial linear scratches up his arm.
The reason that that's interesting is because we know that when the first shots are fired, the killer is outside. He quickly moves in through the window, possibly cutting his arm badly in the process. And here we have a corresponding cut on Justin.
I thought, this might be the person who committed this crime.
Detective Garcia is moving in on a prime suspect in the murder of Nick Morelos, Justin, the jealous ex-fiancé of Nick's ex, Claudia, and he has suspicious wounds on his arms.
He said, well, yes, I'm a landscaper. I have cuts and scratches all the time. So I asked him if I could take photographs of him and of his injuries on his arm. He said no. When I asked him if I could take a DNA sample, he would not give a DNA sample.
DNA in the timeline of a murder case, depending on where it's located, can show whether they were involved in the murder or not. If it's, for example, found at the scene, that is a direct connection to show the DNA was left at the time of the offense. But when someone doesn't give a DNA sample, it certainly sends off warning bells that perhaps they were involved with the offense and they don't want to be caught in a crime.
Without a DNA sample, detectives focus on the timeline. Having already established that Nick was killed between 4 o'clock and 4:15 a.m., they pursue Justin's alibi.
That particular Sunday night, Justin's roommate knew that Justin was at the house till about 6:30 when Justin went to the bar. He said that he was there till about 12:30. He then comes home. He went to bed. I believe he got up at about 6 a.m., took some aspirin, and then went back to sleep.
Justin's alibi appears to put him far away from the crime scene at the time of the murder, but Detective Garcia wants solid proof.
We obtained video surveillance from the bar showing Justin at the bar all the way up until about midnight or 12:30. But then after that, to about the following morning, there was nobody able to corroborate his alibi.
She's established a motive and opportunity, but Detective Garcia still needs physical evidence to connect Justin to the murder.
We continued to talk to him for maybe half an hour. At the end of the conversation, he finally agreed to give a DNA sample.
But when Justin's DNA sample is tested, the results come back negative for a match, and he is eliminated as a suspect.
It's very hard because this was my first real investigation assigned to me. So I was pretty overwhelmed at the time, trying to make sure that I dotted all my I's, crossed all my T's, because all eyes were on me at that time.
With no prime suspect, detectives return to Nick's workplace to hunt for more clues. They learn that Nick's ex-girlfriend, Jessica, is having an affair with co-worker James, who they had spoken to earlier in the investigation.
There was rumors that Jessica was dating James LePan. So we have a series of women that had been in and out of Nick's house, a series of women that had been upset over breakups, and Jessica, being one of the women, now is linked to James LePan, who also had issues at work with Nick and filed the formal complaint. And so I started putting the pieces together, and I thought we might have something a little more here regarding James LePan and Jessica's relationship.
We had what appeared to be a love triangle. We have James LePan, Nick Morales, and Jessica. And one of these three is dead. And two of them are now together.
Detectives summon James to the station to question him about his connection to Jessica.
He looked like a little boy that got in trouble and said, "I did not tell you the truth. Me and Jessica were in a romantic relationship together, and this had been going on for a couple of months."
In the time frame when James meets Jessica, James's wife is away. And James misrepresents to Jessica that his marriage is over and lets out the possibility that he and Jessica will get together and get married. But the fact is, Jessica had filled James' ears with complaints about Nick. So here we know two things. One, James hates Nick because of how he treats him at work. And then two, we have that James believes Nick has treated a woman that he loves inappropriately. So both of those could be motives for murder.
While Detective Garcia assesses a possible motive, something unusual catches her eye.
There was this huge gouge in his arm, and it was pretty deep as well. And so I asked him, "May I take photos of your injuries? And may I take a DNA sample?" And he said no to both.
The killer got in through a broken window. You have James with a huge gash in his arm, clearly not treated medically. And then when James is asked to provide his DNA and he refuses, there's no question that any investigator is going to be highly suspicious of his involvement and is going to look more deeply into his activities.
James claims the injury came from work, but Detective Garcia isn't buying his story.
We got with the human resources director and said, "Hey, we were told that there was an incident that happened on Saturday and he knew about it." He said, yes, James had fallen on the airplane. So we said, "Okay, can we see the airplane?" So he walks us into the hangar and he showed us how James fell into the access panel and how he had received scrapes on his legs when he fell, as well as maybe some superficial cuts on his arm. So on the airplane, right by the door, there's plastic panels. When you take those off, there is airplane insulation. James told us that that was all off. And there's metal pieces that are exposed called stringers. And that is where he said that he cut his arm. But the insulation and the panel was on, so the stringers would have never been exposed. So he would have hit the side of the airplane, and there was nothing jagged or rough where he could have cut his arm on.
Based on this discovery at the airplane hangar, detectives get a search warrant for James LePan's home.
We were specifically looking for weapons, ammunition, anything related with weapons. We were also hoping to find the weapon that was used to kill Nick Morales.
We found 18 boxes of .45 caliber ammo with the 5-star stamp on it. And we found a gun box for a .45 caliber para-ordnance 1911 handgun. There was also a empty box for a silencer. That silencer fit the .45 caliber handgun. We also found a pair of blue pants that was tucked up high in his closet with bloodstains on it.
Detectives send the casings out for ballistics testing, the pants to the lab to test the bloodstains, and get a warrant for James' DNA, hoping to catch him off guard on his drive to work.
James left his residence very early in the morning. Somebody else was driving. We followed him for a couple of miles and eventually conducted a high-risk stop on James LePan. And the driver of the vehicle was Jessica.
One of the things that's disturbing is that we've got Jessica riding with James LePan to work together days after Nick's murder. And so it raises some red flags in terms of what must have been going on in her head had she talked about the killing with James LePan. And was she involved from the very beginning?
Detectives are closing in on James LePan as the prime suspect in the murder of Nick Morales, but now question whether he was working alone or with Nick's ex-girlfriend Jessica, and bring her into the station to be questioned.
Did you and James ever have a private conversation about Nick's murder?
No.
He's saying that you showed him where the house was at.
I've never taken him anywhere near there.
So now is your opportunity to let it out.
And then Jessica reveals a critical piece of information.
The evening of the murder, and we're talking hours before the killer goes in through Nick's window and kills him, James LePan is texting with Jessica saying his pit bull ? And Jessica's writing back, his dog's name is Smokey. James LePan is asking about the pit bull that Nick had, and Jessica is providing information about the pit bull. And again, Nick is going to be dead within a few hours, and then Jessica's going to find that out, assuming she didn't know. And they're going to be riding to work together, spending time together in the days after the murder. They have plenty of time to have conversation. And one would think the conversation would be, what the heck? You texted me about this guy's pit bull and now he's dead, but there's no indication that that's the conversation, and that leads to big question marks for me, and it did for law enforcement.
The text messages to Jessica alone speak to the elaborate premeditation of this crime. I mean, the dog being outside at the scene was significant in its own right. The fact that we see these detailed inquiries being made to Jessica about the dog, its habits, its movements, where it is at that particular moment. I mean, things really start adding up here. He's gaining essentially inside knowledge and doing reconnaissance of the scene before he even gets there to commit the murder.
When detectives drill down on her, Jessica offers up information about James and his experience with guns.
James has taken specialized tactical firearms training in the past. He's proficient with firearm, And with my training experience, I think that it's likely James had the skill set to do this crime.
James's training suggests that he has the skill set, but the blue pants found in his home are even more revealing.
When we get the test back from the lab work that was done, there was an area that had been tested from the pants that showed James LePan's and Nick Morelos' DNA on them.
But then it didn't even stop there. We had James LePan's DNA in the form of blood left in multiple places throughout Nick's bedroom.
Also, the casings we found in James LePan's house, when those were tested for ballistics, those casings matched the casings at the crime scene. At this point, all arrows are pointing towards James LePan in this investigation.
Despite having hard evidence against him, James LePan has a corroborated alibi.
So we had James LePan and his wife giving the same statement.
But then, his wife Serena comes forward with a shocking revelation. James forced her to lie about his alibi and threatened her with abuse if she didn't comply. She had finally had enough.
The impact of abuse on an abused victim is so huge in so many different ways. But what we do know, of course, there's a lot of fear. So it's not uncommon for people to lie to cover up for an abusive partner because they're afraid of them and they're afraid of what could happen if they don't. And then sometimes something happens to remind you that this is not something that's normal, this is not okay, and then you are also forced to reconcile that difference. And so, people might come forward with information or take risks that they ordinarily wouldn't because they now realize what the situation is.
Serena tells detectives that James had always been jealous of Nick.
There was this competition between James and Nick. You get a lot of guys that have that A-type personality, and that was just kind of part and parcel of James and Nick's personalities.
Someone like James would be incredibly envious of somebody like Nick. I see James as somebody who possibly collects injustices, collects grievances. If you're an arrogant person and you feel like you deserve more and you're special, you're gonna be affronted when somebody says to you, no, you can't park in that parking spot, or no, you can't do these things. And so at some level, I wonder if this narcissistic wound that he has that keeps festering for him, plus this enviousness of Nick and wants to be more like him, added to this warrior mentality. He sees himself as a pseudo-commando, has this military-type background. Those things combine for a toxic mix for revenge and violence.
Detectives are now able to reconstruct the final 24 hours of Nick's life.
After spending his Sunday with Christy, Nick goes home and he's in bed at his own home by 9 p.m.
James and Serena were having that counseling session at home and went to bed early, roughly between 9 and 9:30.
At 3:30 a.m. on Monday, James sneaks out of the house and we know is at Nick's place, positioned outside the second floor window by 3:50 a.m.
Nick wakes up and lets Smokey out at 4 a.m. James knew that habit because LePan had conversations about Smokey the pit bull with Jessica. And then he waits, Smokey's in the backyard, and then he begins firing. And then he goes in through the window. Nick is moving. There's a closely packed pattern of shots and a final shot to his head.
James LePan cleaned up and got home before 5:30 or 6, went to bed, and he didn't get up till 6 a.m. James LePan is a monster. He murdered Nicholas Morelos for no other reason than jealousy. He gained nothing out of it. He destroyed the victim's family, the victim's extended family. He destroyed his family.
On October 2nd, 2018, James LePan is convicted of the first-degree murder of Nick Morelos. He is sentenced to life without parole.
In my 20 years in law enforcement in Pima County, this is the only incident that I can think of where these military, paramilitary type of tactics were used to hunt someone down and kill them.
This case was very important to me, and I'm very, very proud of myself. We were able to narrow down suspects very quickly, get the suspect off the streets, make the public more safer. So I'm very satisfied with the way this investigation panned out.
I can't bring Nick back, and the family, it will still be a devastating tragedy for them the rest of their lives, but we can do something that helps them in some small way. They're looking for justice, and I get to try my best to give them a little piece of justice. And so I'm honored to serve my community and do that work.